In a recent study of over 1,000 Social Security recipients, over 75% of them said that they were unaware of a looming danger that we all need to know about. So what is this danger? It's the threat that AI poses to all of us when we're taking phone calls, when we're reading emails, when we're interacting with anybody outside of the physical space. AI is a big threat and is causing things to be much more believable from the scammer side, and of course that's a bad thing for us. This study was done by Atticus Law Firm. The article's entitled, or the study's called, Perceptions of AI-Driven Social Security Fraud. And I want to go through a few of these findings with you because I think they're super important, including some AI scams that over 20% of the people surveyed said that they would have fallen for. So it's important because I don't want you to fall for any scams. Now, in this scam with Social Security, they say that the average Social Security scam costs people $400, but I'm going to share with you some data from the FBI as well that shows that that number is quite a bit higher. So let's go through this. So again, 75% of the recipients said that they were unaware of the danger that AI poses in making fraud more believable. And nearly 1 in 5, and it depends on which of the fraud scenarios they put out, would have fallen for these AI scams and failed to recognize it. You know, with AI now, it's crazy to think that as I record this, really AI's been out for like 18 months as far as in the public domain. And it's crazy to see just how far they've come. There are YouTubers that are able to do their YouTube videos without sitting in front of a smartphone like I am right now. AI can do it. They just write the script. It sounds like them. It looks like them. Their lips are moving just like mine. And the interesting thing is they can actually change the language. So they can be speaking English and then Spanish. And so how this is benefiting the scammers is they can pretend to be a family member. They could pretend to be a grandchild. They could pretend to be an adult child. They could pretend to be a spouse. They could pretend to be a friend. And it becomes very, very lifelike. So we have to be super, super careful. And frankly, all they need is a couple seconds of our voice in order to clone it. Now, it's against the rules to do that without permission, but it's not going to stop the bad guys, obviously. So, you know, it's another reason why when your phone rings, if it's an unknown caller, to not pick up on the phone and be sure to stay to the end, because I'm going to share with you, you know, that's one tip. It's a simple tip, but I'm going to share with you 6 things you can do to protect yourself from scams like this. Okay, the key takeaways of the report, we already talked about the first 2. And in general, almost 20% of all Social Security recipients have fallen victim to fraud at some point in the past. So it's a big, big number. I shared with you that the FBI has a report as well. Now for the Social Security scams, it is $400 on average, but this report by the IC3, which is run by the FBI, it stands for the Internet Crime something, the Internet Crime Communication, I don't know, but it's essentially where people report frauds against them. And this is the summary from 2023. You can see there were over 100,000 complaints. It resulted in over $3.4 billion of losses. That's almost $34,000 per senior. So this is a big, big issue. Okay, so why are people attacking, why are scammers pretending to be from the Social Security office? Why are they using that as a front as opposed to other methods that they could use? Frankly, it's because when you're talking to Social Security, And you should only talk to Social Security when you call a number that you know you're calling, a number that you know is correct. You can find their phone number on the Social Security Administration's website, which is ssa.gov. But scammers are pretending to be from Social Security because, of course, it would be natural for the Social Security office to ask us what our Social Security number is. We go and visit the Social Security office. What's your name? What's your birth date? Social Security office. But it's quite a different thing if you're talking to somebody on the phone. And if you did not initiate the phone call to a number that you know to be correct, don't give out that information. Hang up, call the Social Security office directly, and you ask the questions that you need to ask. But some of these scams in this article, you can see it at Atticus Law Firm. I'll leave the URL below. But some of these scams, they have playing of voicemails for people. They have different text messages, different emails that people get, and then they show what percent of the survey study people would have fallen for that scam. Okay, but as far as I know, Social Security is never going to call you. They're definitely not going to text you. And they're not going to send you an email with a link asking for personal information. So nobody's calling and saying, hey, this is Bob from the Social Security Administration. That's not going to happen. You can see here in one of the various scenarios that Atticus put in their survey, you can see that 18% of the people would have submitted their information, and almost a fourth of the people would have trusted the contact. And if you think, hey, that's crazy, I would never fall for that, I want to share this, this video with you. I'm just going to give you the title of it, but if you go to the FBI's website on YouTube, you can find this. And this is William Webster, who used to be the director of the CIA and the director of the FBI. And he became a target of a scam. So if it could happen to him, it can happen to any of us. So we need to be extra vigilant. Okay, so why are they targeting seniors? This is from the FBI report on fraud against elderly people. It comes out every year. This is the 2023 report, which just, as I record this, just came out. But according to the FBI, you can see, very few fraud cases to people below 20. Why? People below 20 are still building up their net worth, and they're more tech savvy than the rest of us. But you can see the numbers here, and they really peak over 60. It's the only category, unfortunately, that's over 100,000 complaints, and again, $3.4 billion. So what do? There's a couple things you can do to protect you. Again, the legitimate website of Social Security is ssa.gov. So that's the first thing. And then just good digital, good online practices. And it's becoming more and more important every year that we do these things. You've heard it before, but get a password manager and figure out how to use it. Many people are reusing the same password multiple times. I can tell you that some of the top reviewed password managers are in the neighborhood of $5 a month for your family, 3 or 4 people. This isn't sponsored by anybody. I'm not going to mention any names, but it's worth having a good password manager. So if one site gets hacked, it doesn't lead you to having multiple sites getting hacked. Okay, another one is 2-factor authentication, where they send a text to your phone, or to use an authenticator on your phone. Google has an authenticator. Several other people have an authenticator. Also, I think with AI, some of the what they call phishing emails, where you get this fraudulent email and they're trying to get you to click or download a video. In the past, we've been able to count on poor spelling, poor grammar in these emails, and we knew that this email from some king in some faraway country that needed money in order to get more money, and he was going to split the ransom with you or whatever, the treasure with you. We knew that that was a scam. But you know what? They're getting harder and harder to tell. So I think good antivirus software is important. I also think it's important to be careful what the details are that you share online, particularly on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, things like that. Because they can start to compile a profile of you, what your address is, what state you live in, how many kids you have, things like that, what your kids' names are. So just be careful with that information. And then the most important one, I think, is your phone is a tool to serve you. And many of us, myself included, kind of feel an obligation to pick up the phone. I did until a couple years ago, but now I don't. So there is a way that you can block unknown calls. I have an iPhone, but on my iPhone, if you go to settings and scroll down towards the bottom to phone, there is a feature that you can silence unknown callers, and then it'll still show up on your recent calls. It'll still go to voicemail, but you know what? I bet those scammers are much less persuasive and tricky in their voicemail than it is when you're talking to them live, because one of the features of any scam is they try to create a sense of urgency. And so you're cutting that off from them if you don't pick up the phone. So those are the big things. I think it's super important that we know about these things. I also think it's super important that we think about, when the right time for us is to retire, which is why I made this video here. 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. I think it's important, if you're not sure when you're going to retire, if you think you might work another year or two, even though you've been thinking about retiring and maybe financially can retire now, I think this video up here, again, 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can, will be super helpful for you. We need to protect our assets, we need to protect our wealth, but we also need to protect our life and live our best life. 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.